Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we are getting ready for our second rescue operation, and let's just go ahead and cruise on through this. I'm planning for this to be relatively brief. I'm concerned about the re-entry of this thing without having a decoupler here. In retrospect, I definitely should have had that, but we can address that in a bit here. Let's go ahead and warp on forward to raise up our periapsis here for our intercept. And burn. Fantastic. There we go. And let's raise that on up. This is good enough. And let's see about getting an intersection. This is probably going to require a couple of orbits. Yeah, that's definitely going to require an orbit or two. That was a pretty good orbit. Unfortunately, it instantly closed it when I clicked it next. Yeah, that's almost perfect. We can probably adjust this timing a bit. I see 6.7. We could fine-tune that, but I don't think we need to. This is good enough. So we'll go ahead and set that up. Cool. And we will warp around to there. Let's go. So we'll get this warping done here. That'll be momentarily done. There we go. And let's get ready for this burn. Overshot it a little bit. It'll be fine. So let's bring that on down. And we can try to fine-tune it by burning like target or anti-target. We can experiment with that. Okay, so there we go. 6.1 kilometers. So if we were to burn target here, what would we get out of that? Okay, it's working its way up. That's fine. We're going to go ahead and warp around to about here, and we'll switch into target mode. Cool. So from here, we'll just eyeball it. We can now see that it is about 6 kilometers out. 5.9 kilometers out. Okay, sounds good. So retrograde is currently here. I want to push retrograde over towards being at anti-target. So we're going to push it on over. Remember, retrograde nodes get pushed while prograde nodes get pulled. So we're moving that over a little bit. It's pretty far off of anti-target right now. Anti-target is here. So we need to continue to push this direction a ways. Okay, where's that compared to anti-target? It's getting there. We can push it from about here. There. And now we're heading more or less exactly at the target. Excellent. Looks like less. We need to push it up this direction a little bit. Something along the lines of that. It needs to come up a little bit more, looks like. Sure. So, I mean, we're drifting pretty far off pretty quickly. So we need to burn towards the target a little bit. So we can pull the prograde marker up this direction, which we will definitely do, and get a little bit of extra speed towards this target. We'll move in at around 10 meters per second. And we'll warp in. We'll have to do a couple of corrective burns here. That's interesting. We're going to burn towards the target here at about 10 meters per second. We apparently had that completely wiped out by our orbital differential. But that's fine. Okay, we'll try 14 meters per second. And you can see here, it's drifting on off. So we are going to continue to burn this direction to attract this node towards us, the prograde node. There we go. And continue to warp on in. As we get closer, this effect will be reduced. Okay. Let's do a corrective burn here. There we go. And we're moving in at about 30 meters per second. We should probably start flipping around here pretty soon. I'm just going to do one final corrective burn towards target. Just getting that moved on in. Okay. And now we're going to flip around and start doing our corrective burns anti-target. Cool. So we'll push this over a little bit. But we're pretty on target here, to be honest. So we can just start doing a bit of a break down to about 10 meters per second. Actually, we can do a pretty major break here. And push this on over. About like this. Cool. And we're 5 meters away from the target. Beautiful. So let's hop on over, and Lunar can EVA. Lunar is conveniently a pilot, so we don't actually have to do any of... Oh, I reboarded. Lunar is actually a pilot, so we don't have to do any of the shenanigans for moving around Valentina that I was afraid we'd have to do. That's fine. We can head on over here. Grab on. And we'll have to move Valentina on out of here. So we will EVA, or not EVA, we will transfer Valentina over to here, and then hop back. There we go. So now we'll flip into orbit mode because we have to bring these guys back. I'm a little bit concerned about this orbital mode, or about this return, to be honest. We're going to warp over to this periapsis without a heat shield, and with our weight distribution being what it is, we're going to want to flip around and become a bullet here, I'm afraid. So I definitely want to prevent that from happening. I'm going to drop our apoapsis down to being just above orbital apoapsis here. So just above 70. We're going to need a little more juice than this. Oh, wait, that's our periapsis. It flipped. I'm dumb. We're going to bring this back around and raise this up, because I don't actually want to come down on the dark side. It's harder to see things on YouTube on the dark side. So we'll bring this up to 70, and then we're going to come around to this periapsis. And then we'll have to warp again. That's fine. Getting back with this craft as it is right now is going to be exciting. So that's why I'm bringing these down as close to 70 as I can, just so that we know that we've moved off as much power as we can before we enter the atmosphere. Okay, so we'll just sit retrograde here. Okay, we just passed the periapsis. That's fine. So we're going to bring the apoapsis down to be basically exactly 70 as well. Okay, that's just dipping down into the atmosphere, which is fine. I'm going to bring this down to like 65, 64. That's a lot of space between us and the ground, right? But I feel like we're going to need it. So we're going to drop on down here into the atmosphere. And let's... Ooh, that's very sensitive with physics warp on. Okay, let's just position ourselves, if I can get there with physics warp on, let's position ourselves in orbital retrograde. And we need to maintain as much as we can in terms of this fuel, because our weight has to remain in the bottom here. Otherwise, we're going to want to flip around. With the way that the Kerbal aerodynamics system works, we're going to want to flip around, we'll become a bullet, and we're simply not going to drop our speed that we need. So I'm going to turn SAS off in this upper atmosphere here. Our fuel tank here, the weight in the fuel tank should draw us back towards retrograde, so we shouldn't tumble too far, and I just don't want to have to be trying to steer while we're in this mode here. So, and honestly, increasing our surface area here isn't too bad. This is going to be a pretty lengthy return trip, because we're barely dipping into the atmosphere here. But we're going to be running in physics warp as much as we can, and bringing this on down. So our apoapsis is about to dip into the atmosphere. There we go. We are not coming back out of this atmosphere. We're probably going to hit the periapsis here and then go back up and then come around and then not hit the apoapsis the second time, is my guess. That's fine. We want to bleed off as much energy as we possibly can before we have to use anything in this fuel tank. I would be much more aggressive with this if we were able to detach this tank, or if we were able to burn off the tank here, detach the tank, and then come in with a heat shield. I'd be much happier about this situation. As it is right now, this is going to be interesting. And we're barely going to slow down for the first little while here. But, I mean, in fact, you can see that we're technically speeding up. Of course, I want to be in surface velocity here. So you can see that we're speeding up here. And that's because we're approaching the periapsis. But we're losing overall energy. And that's what we want. This is going to be a weird reentry. And we'll fix this craft to make it more easy to re-enter with after we're done with this. There's no reason that we can't do it. I just didn't previously. So, there we are. Our periapsis is dropped down. Actually, time to periapsis is currently holding and going up. So we are not going to hit the periapsis. Noted. You can see here that our surface speed is still going up. But we're just going to bleed off as much speed as we can in this upper atmosphere. Without a heat shield, this is kind of the best that we're going to do. We really should have a heat shield. That's the takeaway here. We really should have a heat shield. Okay. So our apoapsis is down to 65 kilometers, and our periapsis 60. We're just kind of splitting the difference between the two right now. Our surface speed is holding. It's going down. This is good. We want our surface speed to be going down even as we're getting further away from the periapsis. It went up there. And I'm guessing that's due to the amount of aerodynamic surface that's exposed due to this quasi-tumble that we've got going on here. That's my guess. But we're going to bring this thing on in. We're still 60 kilometers up, right? So the air is still really, really thin here. The fact that we're seeing any decrease at all is remarkable. I don't want to be venturing this far away from retrograde. So what that tells me is that we are having some difficulty. Or not really difficulty, it's just that we don't have enough air resistance to keep us in this area. Fair enough, we're 60 kilometers up. We can see our apoapsis dropping and our periapsis dropping. That's always great. And of course, we are currently increasing. Actually, if we want to be technical, what we want to do is be sitting like right here right now to maximize our surface area and lower our speed as much as we can. That's basically what we want to be doing right now, is SASing right here. Fundamentally, this is radial out. Yeah. And then once we start to have heating issues from doing this, we'll flip over to retrograde and think about doing a burn. I mean, we're naturally heading over towards retrograde, but I want to be hanging out here to drop our speed. Our speed must continue to drop. Because without heat shields, it's going to be interesting. No doubt about that. We're seeing the solar panels heat up here. I'm going to rotate in hopes that that fixes it. Yes. So the solar panels are more protected here. They're not exactly protected here, but they're more protected. I don't care if the solar panels burn off. That's not something that I care about. Okay, so we're starting to see atmospheric effects here. And we're also starting to slow down at a pretty decent clip. Our periapsis is now negative. And I'm just watching this heat right now. I'm coming out of physics warp. So far, the heat seems to be reasonably fine. Okay. If we rotated this way, is that any improvement? Not really. Okay. Just watching that for now, and watching our speed very slowly drop. Very slowly. I mean, we're still 43 kilometers up. The air here is still very, very thin. Can we get away with sitting here? I mean, if we lose the solar panels, I don't care. That's completely and totally fine. What I want to see here is more speed drop, which means increasing our surface area. Are we better off rotating it like this? Okay, right now you can see us being pulled aerodynamically this direction. That's exactly what we want to see. That is exactly what we want to see. I'm going to hold here for the moment and continue to bleed off as much speed as we possibly can. Okay, we got to rotate now. Heat is getting too up there. So we need to flip around to here, and you can see we're now increasing our speed. That's okay. We can burn off a little bit here to slow down as a bit of a re-entry burn. And I'm going to burn here until we have... I'm just thinking. I don't want to burn too much or else we'll flip. I'm going to burn down to here. 140 seconds remaining. We are accelerating. I'm not shocked about that. And the reason we're accelerating is because our aerodynamic surface dropped a lot. That said, we're about to start decelerating. Yes, now we're decelerating. Perfect. As long as this engine doesn't blow up, we're fine. I don't care about this heat either. But this is the danger of flying without a heat shield. For sure. For sure. So we're going to keep holding this attitude for as long as we can. We have not seen the overheat gauge pop up over here, so I'm not too concerned about this engine right now. We're flipping. Oh, we're not flipping. Hang on. Hang on. This might be good. This might be good. We're holding this attitude. This increases our surface area. As long as we don't have parts explode, which we haven't even had the solar panels explode yet. As long as we don't have parts explode, this is good. We're currently going up. That's also really, really good. Oh, wow. I didn't realize we were going up right now. This is insane. This is absolutely nutty. I'm just currently, if we go into the, oh, hello. Overshot it. I was holding the arrow key there. Okay. I feel like we should burn here, but I also feel like we really, really shouldn't. We're very close to flipping over. And our heat gauges appear to be fine at this point. That micro burn, or that micro, not really burn, that micro tumble almost bled off a lot of speed. Now, it should be noted that we're still going at around 1,300 meters per second, and we're only 14 kilometers up. That should be noted. That said, our movement is still almost entirely horizontal. Oh, trying to flip again. Wait, I'm going to turn SAS off here. What's our natural position? This is our natural position. I love it. Now I'm going to start burning here. Okay, I'm going to stop the burn. 600 meters per second. Drogue shoots out. We're good. Okay. That was dicey. I'm not going to lie. That was incredibly dicey. I feel like we got lucky on several occasions there. But we're safe. Funnily enough, this heat gauge appears to be stuck on. I'm not sure that we're actually experiencing heat issues there. I think that's just a bug. But let's go ahead and warp on down towards the ground. Drogue chutes deploy. Main chute will deploy. And this is in orbital speed here. We need to be in surface speed. There we go. So 10 meters per second. We can actually EVA report here. We can have Lunar hop out and grab the EVA report. This is a most precarious situation, but it actually isn't. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely bugged, but that's insane. I can't believe that worked. So note to self, we need to immediately fix this design before we accidentally use it again. Okay, I'm going to burn here and drop our surface velocity down a little bit in hopes of saving this engine. Beautiful. We bounced there, but the engine's good. And then we didn't land on the solar panels. All good. Okay, so we need to roll a little bit here. Like this. Nope. Like this. And then have Lunar EVA. Grab an EVA report. Now, we don't have anywhere to store this crew report, unfortunately. But we can recover this. I can't believe that worked. That thing needs some work on its reentry. That's for sure. So, let's load this in, get these guys back. And it should all be fine. Any moment now. Come on, KSP, you can do it. I know you're kind of amazed that that worked too, but here we are. So, the contracts are complete. We got 15 science. We got a bunch of money for it. And that's fantastic. Okay, let's fix that design. So what's wrong with it? Well, I'll show you in the VAB here. So this design is fundamentally flawed if we open up the design here. This design is fundamentally flawed for reentry. And the reason for that, if we detach here and just work on this, the reason for that is by looking at the center of mass here. You can see that the center of mass is nearly central, but it is a little bit skewed this way. And as this drops, the center of mass skews this way. So this causes it to want to flip to be a bullet instead of a proper reentry trajectory. So what we need to do in order to fix this is we need to detach this. And you can see here, the center of mass is now much, much higher. So this wants to flip over. But what we need to do is we need to put in a heat shield here, a 1.25 meter, and that immediately moves it by quite a bit. So this center of mass, I'm just thinking here, this is about even, which should be okay. We should be able to hold that. So all we need here is a heat shield, and that will protect these components as well in terms of heat. So that'll be good. And then we need a decoupler here, a TD12, which that will move this a little bit as well, but this will be decoupled. So there's that. And then this stage gets attached on, and then this stage gets attached on like that. And now this is a much more stable entry vehicle. More stable. I'm not claiming it is stable, but it's more stable. So that will be much better for future runs. However, we don't need to do that right now. We can save that and leave, and we can take a look at what contracts are available. Now, we know that we need a couple of satellites. We can put those up super easily. That won't be a big deal. But I want to see if there's any new good contracts here. What do we got? Explore the moon. Orbit the moon. Okay, Yes, we will do that. We'll grab that. Rescue Gary and Helwyn, both from low Kerbal orbit. Science data from space around the moon. We'll definitely be doing that one. And then I think we'll hold off on more rescues. We're doing okay financially, so I'm not too concerned about that. We'll get these all done. Science data from space around Kerbal. Yeah, that's something we'll get from the satellites. So I think that we're going to next episode launch those satellites. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes. Actually, hang on. I want to check something here. What is the destruction velocity of the pug? Let's see. 7 meters per second. So we got lucky there. We landed at about 8 meters per second. I would have expected the pug to explode there, but sometimes the physics engine has some tolerance there. Sometimes it just works, and sometimes it blows up a little below that. Probably due to like rounding or floating point calculations or things like that. We got a little lucky on that, I think. That pug didn't blow up. But it's not like that saved us much. That's 300. Like, it doesn't really matter. I just wanted to double check that. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including Casserole, JJ Gamer, ALS Gamer, Kentuin, Atala, Shadowwolf, Jensgram, Spartan News, Nick Smarty, Video Games Are Not Real, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Kadra, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video. And as always, I will see you all next time. Saving the game here. That's why the sound's cut out. Fantastic.